So at Open Circle, we share practices that help us discover that all of life is a practice. And this week, our practice is being guided by Jennifer Willhoite. Jennifer is a contemplative writer, illustrator, and spiritual teacher who helps people forge and heal a loving relationship to themselves and love through illustrated stories and tools on the Examen. She writes little stories of love and hope, an illustrated comic series about her own messy and growing spiritual journey, which she hopes lets others feel less alone and see their humanity as a gift that is uniquely and abundantly connected to love in everyday life. She also designs and sells tools introducing people to the Examen, helping them deepen their journey of self discovery, discernment, and befriending love in all things. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you for welcoming me to your circle and gathering today. I am really excited and a little bit nervous too. Um, the Ignatian Examen, has been a part of my life for over 10 years now. And in the time that we have together, I'm hoping to do two things. I'd like to introduce the practice to those of you who may be new to it. And for those of you who are familiar to it, hopefully give you a different perspective, my perspective on the practice. And then I would like to invite you into the practice itself so that you can participate in your own privacy, in your own quietude, in your own being. So, the Examen is a daily spiritual practice that combines reflection, accountability, and action in a series of rhythmic questions rooted in our everyday human experience. And it takes big existential concepts that all of us humans wrestle with, whether we're always conscious of it or not, like who am I and who am I becoming? And who is God, love, spirit, source? And what is God, love, spirit, source doing in my life? And it grounds these big questions into our daily human experience so that we're less intimidated about these existential quandaries and we're more willing to engage with the truth of our lives, whether it's messy, clean cut, understood, confusing, painful, enlightening, enlivening. It helps us grow and trust our human experience as a connection point to the sacred. And it helps us discern love's voice and love's unique presence in our lives, the way love is speaking to us as an individual and inviting us into a larger world. So the Examen is founded on the belief that love, God, spirit, source, I will usually use the word love for the sacred, just so you know, but feel free to enter in the word that you're most comfortable with, is founded on the belief that love is in all things, including our humanity and our human experiences, our senses, and the world around us. So, for this reason, when we practice the Examen, we orient our listening towards the places, the moments, the contexts where we feel a deep connection to love's presence and a deep absence and isolation from love's presence. We call these two movements consolation and desolation. And we work very hard to not put them in opposition with one another, but to recognize that they are movements of our spirit and a part of our human experience. We typically practice the Examen in the afternoon or in the evening. So it's a reflective practice where we're looking back and then we're taking stock of what is, and then we start to look forward. When we practice, what we're essentially doing is having a conversation with ourselves, our own souls, and with love about what happened in a day, how we felt about it, how we notice love's presence in our day, how we notice love's absence in our day. We notice in the practice whether we have wounds that we have to attend to, be them ours or perhaps someone else's. We recognize where we need to be accountable, where we need to wrap things up and take action. And then in this conversation, we look ahead, kind of like the story that Ed was sharing about what are we going to build next? Where are we going to orient our intention and our follow through? And then we take action and then we the next day, go back and reflect again. So it's like a 5 to 20 minute check-in process every day where you just let your soul catch up to your life. um, I find myself essentially saying, you know, okay, this is me. Now what? And then we listen to what our soul and to what love says in response to that question. The more that we have these conversations with ourselves and with the sacred, the more we practice the examine, the more we build trust within ourselves and our own inner wisdom, and the more we build a trusting relationship with the divine. The more we trust ourselves and the more we trust the divine, the safer we tend to feel as a human being. The safer we tend to feel as a human being, the more capable we are of giving and receiving compassion to ourselves and others. The more we're able to give and receive compassion, the more we are able to embrace our own uniqueness and embrace the uniqueness of another. And the more we're able to embrace uniqueness in ourselves and in the world around us, the more we end up falling in love. What starts as a conversation, the examine practice every day between ourselves and love, over time becomes a love story where we start to learn more about what breaks our heart, what brings us alive, where we're vulnerable, where we need support, where we need to grow, where we need healing and boundaries, where we are uniquely gifted and are called to serve. So I find the whole process actually quite beautiful. It doesn't happen overnight. It is rooted in rapport that creates a daily dialogue that over time becomes this relationship, just like any other friendship or relationship that we have in our life. A relationship with ourselves and a relationship with the sacred is built basically through the same process. The examine itself has a structure, and the more we practice it, the less this structure feels important, and the more we just find a particular rhythm with it. But it's always nice to have something to kind of guide and hold our thoughts, hold our conversation. So this is kind of the shape of it. It starts with gratitude. We name something that we're grateful for, regardless of how small it seems. Naming something that we cherish in our life is one way that we tell the truth of who we are. Because when we say I'm grateful, we're saying this matters to me. I find this important. This was so special that I couldn't help but notice it. The next step, step 2, is reflection. We look back on the last 24 hours and at the events and the experiences, and we ask ourselves, what was my human response to those? How did I react in these different contexts? It's less of an accounting to make sure that absolutely we recall absolutely every detail, and more of a recognition of how full our day is, exactly how many places internally and externally we go to, the depth and breadth of our experience in just one day. And we acknowledge that we have lots of feelings around that. The third step is that we listen and reflect. This is where our soul and love are invited to get very quiet and in union with one another. And we let our spirit feel these moments of deep connection and deep disconnection in our day. Sometimes this can feel like a buoying spirit, an enlivening, enlightening spirit, moments where we were in flow, moments where we felt heard, moments where we felt seen, moments where we felt like ourselves, moments where we felt hope, moments where we felt like something good was growing and that we were a part of it and contributing to it. Those moments that kind of rise up after our reflection and stick out above and beyond the other moments, those are ones that we would name as consolation. And we do that naming with open hands and open heart. We try not to cling to it. We just let it be and observe it with equanimity. And we do the same with the gravity and the pull of desolation, separation, and isolation. It could be something small, it could be something big, something a part of an ongoing big picture. But in one day, it is very likely and possible that we will have a moment or a context where we feel not ourselves, separated from the source of love, wondering what this life is all about, what purpose it has, and what purpose we have within it. And we name that movement of spirit and that human experience desolation. And like consolation, we hold it openly, without judgment, and without a sense of a moral courtroom that it's right or wrong. The fourth step is what I call mending. So we listen to what is not wrapped up. We listen to what we need to be held account for. We listen to our conscience that says, circle back to this person. You need to give an apology. You need to engage in a conversation about boundaries, healing, relationship. We are making amends in this step. And that means making amends towards ourselves as well, and naming tasks that may not be done, that we know need to be accomplished for our own well-being and the well-being of others. So we name this in mending. Then we set our sights forward. We've looked back, we've taken an assessment of what is. Before we move forward, we set an intention. We make a commitment to follow through with our action on that intention. And then I always end the practice with another aspect of gratitude. I say thank you once again. So I invite you to get in a posture right now that feels safe, feels like a place where you can listen within and listen without. And I would like to guide you through the practice. You can write down things if you'd like, or just close your eyes or think, whatever is most comfortable for you. So looking back on the last 24 hours and the day that has already been in front of us, name something that your heart celebrates. Name something that you are grateful for, that you cherish, and that matters to you. Looking back on the last 24 hours and the day that has been given to us thus far, look back on what happened. What were the contexts, the events, the experiences of this day? Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? Make a note, if you can, as to how you felt about this. Were you stressed? Were you joyful? Did you forget about the time because you were so engaged? It's not important that we recall every detail, but a general recap of our day helps us be aware of our reality and the emotions that we experience in our human reality. This is especially important when we are feeling overwhelmed or on autopilot. Simply giving our attention to the fact that our lives are full, even within a 24-hour window, and our response to our living can be full and complex, warrants our attention. Given the last 24 hours and the day that we have been given thus far, listening to all that you have reflected on and recalled, let it all settle into your mind and your heart and your body. See if you can listen and feel the experience of one moment, one context, one event that is rising up within you It doesn't matter how small or how big or how momentous or not momentous this seems to be. Allow it to come forward in front of all of the other emotions and experiences. This could be a moment that felt particularly joyful or effortless. Again, a moment where you may have felt seen or heard, capable, like you were contributing. We name this movement consolation, and we listen to its partner. Any moment, event, or experience that seems to be pulling on us like a weight, not necessarily grounding us, but perhaps knocking our feet out from under us. Maybe this is something that we can feel on the edges of our minds and our reality, but we wish it wasn't there and we want it to go away and it won't leave. A moment or an experience in the last 24 hours that feels like you are longing and yearning, and you're wondering if there's anything on the other side responding. We call this moment desolation. We hold both of these movements of spirit, whether they're clear to us right now or maybe nothing is really coming up. We let them be. We accept them as part of our human experience, and we consider with an open heart and an open mind and an open posture of our body and our consciousness that both of these movements of spirit may be love inviting us into something deeper. It is safe to put a pin in these things and let them sit for a period of time and to continue to listen to them as the day unfolds. And now we ask love and our soul to speak to us about where we need to be held accountable. This is not about punishment. This is not a gotcha. This is about what is undone, still needs healing, connection, attention, amend making, second chances, another shot at something, a healthy boundary, just more effort perhaps. We make a commitment in our heart and in our body and in our mind that these things that are coming to us that need our attention, we will give them our attention, our agency, and our action as best as we are able. And now we recognize, love, you've journeyed with us for the last 24 hours and what the day has offered so far. We've looked on it, it has been full. We see right now what is still alive in this day. And we ask ourselves before we move forward, before we step into the horizon, what do we need to leave with the day that has already passed? What do we need to ask for support and grace and help and healing with? How can us or a family member, a friend, or the sacred lend us a hand? Because what we are carrying with us is simply too heavy for us alone. And what posture, energy, or presence do we want to bring to the rest of our day? Name those in your mind, in your heart, in your body now. And some examples I would give you could be courage, patience, rest, delight, wonder, critical thinking, imagination. Lastly, before we move forward with the day, we recognize that the path ahead requires not just the light of the world, not just the light from the sacred, but our contributing light. And that light we offer through gratitude and thanksgiving. When we name something we're grateful for, we see more possibility in this moment, this present moment, than we had perhaps seen before. So we conclude our practice with one more statement of gratitude. And that is the examine practice for January 17th, 2021. Thank you for letting me share it with you.